Alright guys, so the new set just dropped. I just did my stream where I did the pack pulling. I got a copy of at least every basic card in the set so I can do a full set review. This retry button is just going to keep popping up because the game is having trouble with so many people trying to access the game right now. But this is, just going to be, obviously I haven't played with any of the cards yet, so it's kind of like my first impression of all the cards. And you'll have an idea of what to look forward to because we only got 15 cards spoiled. So let's just get into the set review. We already had this spoiled. There is a new Executor that takes 4 energy. I don't think I would play this over the previous one because the previous Execute does at least 20 damage, or does 20 damage rather, and then if the Executor doesn't flip heads, you're still doing 40, and that's 60, which knocks out a lot of the basics in the game. I don't think this is worth it. Also, if you start first, for example, and this is in your active spot, then you just pass. Then your opponent passes back to you, passes back to you. Then you basically use the steal a mass effect, and then you pass back. So you're applying like 0 pressure. You can't even evolve immediately. So it's really, really bad going first. I don't think it'll see that much play. I don't think it's very good, unfortunately. This is the new Executor. This attack does 20 damage for each energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. It could be, fairly decent. Let's say on average it's 2, right? That's 120, which could knock out a Pikachu, but I think 4 is extremely steep. I get that it could combo with Superior, but you have to have these things, and this applies no early pressure. So unfortunately, the new Executor lines I don't think are very good. Let's talk about Celebi for a moment. So 130 basic EX, 1 retreat, which is great. 1 grass, colorless, powerful bloom, 50x. Flip a coin for each energy attached to this Pokemon. This attack does 50 damage for each heads. And we did get confirmation while I was on stream that it does combo with Superior. So this is a powerhouse card. It's can also just body block very well. It's got the 130, 1 retreat Zapdos line. It's going to be a really impactful card. Really, really strong. Snivy is just the Bulbasaur stats. Servine is a crappier Ivysaur. Well, maybe not, because it does have the 2 energy for 50, and sometimes you do get burned with Ivysaur where you have to like immediately evolve to avoid a KO and you can't even attack. So this might actually be better than Ivysaur. And then the Superior, which is in, this is the first time we're seeing this effect. It says each grass energy attached to your grass Pokemon provides 2 grass energy. This effect doesn't stack. And so what this means is, in every sense, the game actually recognizes that grass energy as being 2 grass energy. So it's not like it has 1 and it's treated as 2. Like, the game actually sees it as 2, which is a really big deal. So while the card itself isn't good, it's obviously meant to be, the strategy is this card. And I don't know how it's going to be, man. Like, the stage 2 decks are slower. They're more inconsistent. Maybe you can do some cool things with this. Is it necessary? It's probably not necessary. But there might be a way to break this. But right now, I'm just kind of up in the air with this card. I don't know how you're supposed to say this. I read it as more lol, but whatever. It has the basic stat line, nothing to say there. Shinotic. 2 grass energy. Your opponent's active Pokemon is now asleep. It's not a terrible stage 1, but doing 50 damage, coin flip, and only having 90 HP seems kind of not great. But if you like putting your opponent to sleep and trolling, maybe you got something there. Delmise, we saw this spoiled for us. If this Pokemon has at least 3 extra grass energy attached, it does 70 more damage. So this is just like the green Lapras. It does have a decent, basic HP, but double retreat, so it's not even that good to body block with because you're going to have to invest, and you're not going to want to use something like Leaf on this. So probably not going to see too much play. The new Ponyta, however, is very good. Blaine definitely got super buffed. So 1 fire, at least 10 damage. Flip a coin. If heads, its attack does 30 more damage. So it's either going to do 10 or 40. So they basically got like a far-fetched. That's, you know, half the time is far-fetched anyway. But really, really strong. You definitely just do 10 less damage for the potential to deal 40. I mean, this is a all-in, you know, red deck win strategy. And then this Rapidash is totally nuts. So stage 1, 100 HP, 1 fire, 1 colorless. Flip a coin if heads. Its attack does 60 more damage. So Blaine essentially now doesn't have to rely so heavily on Ninetales. It can have this and Ninetales as the 2 energy attackers that just go in. So Blaine is massively, massively buffed. I cannot understate this enough. If you're just starting the game out, Blaine's really cheap deck. Really easy to get to, you know, put together with your points. It's just gonna be really strong. I mean, with Blaine, this is 130 damage if you flip heads, which is insane. I mean, you can knock out a Pikachu, you can knock out a Mew, you can knock out a Celebi, you can knock out all the birds, or excuse me, not all the birds, just Zapdos. But yeah, it's a lot. We saw this guy being spoiled. Discard 2 energy, 80 damage. I don't think it's going to see much play. Larvesta, 2 energy for 30. Not very good. Volcarona, 2 fire, 1 colorless. Discard 2 energy from this Pokemon. This attack does 80 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon. I can see this card being really good, especially with Moltres. So you can basically ruin your opponent's ability to pivot for safety. I think this card's going to be seen a good bit. I think it might just be a 1-and-1 line a lot of the time, though. It basically is like this utility bench attacker, kind of like how Hitmonlee is. Salandit, not sure to say this. If your opponent's active Pokemon is poisoned, this attack does 40 more damage. It might be kind of decent. You know, I mean, you could throw this in a Weezing deck. Throw this in basically any poison deck because it takes colorless energy, which is really strong. So I think this card will see play. And then the evolution, if your opponent's active Pokemon is poisoned, oh, it does poison them and deals 30. It's kind of interesting that it's like in reverse, but I think this card is going to see play by itself more often than not. Leap Out is basically just the Ralts ability where it swaps itself out. We do have another Gyarados. Unfortunately, it's still not as good as I want it to be. 3 waters, 1 colorless, Raging Whirlpool, 140. Discard a random energy from among the energy attached to all Pokemon, both yours and your opponent's. Obviously, it's not going to hurt you as badly because hopefully you're like just overflowing with energy from like a Misty Flip or something. But it does knock out Aerodactyl. It does knock out all the birds. It does knock out Celebi. It does knock out Pikachu. And it's really thick with 180 HP. So I think it's definitely better than the Gyarados we currently have. But is it good enough to run? I'm not sure. We'll have to test it with Vaporeon and Misty. Speaking of Vaporeon, this is basically grass got like each grass counts as 2, and this is like water's, you know, new ability. As often as you like during your turn, you may move a water energy from one of your bench water Pokemon to your active Pokemon. So this is also a subtle buff to Misty, because let's say you're going first and there's nothing to Sabrina, there's nothing to Geo, there's nothing to Leaf, whatever. You can Misty like a water Pokemon on your bench, and if let's say you flip like 3 heads with Misty, Vaporeon can come down at a later point and get all that value out of that Misty later. So we have seen a Misty buff, just an indirect one. And it's not that you even need it. I mean, it's already been brought up that you can like retreat Starmie for free, then move those 2 energy wherever you want. So there's going to be a lot of cool interactions with Vaporeon. Excited to play with it. Finian, we just have the basic line. Lumineon, this attack does 50 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. Could be really strong in tandem with Articuno, with Greninja. There's definitely going to be some like bench attacking strats going on. A lot more of this has been added this set. Choodle, terrible basic. Dreadnought, 3 water energy, flip a coin, if heads, discard a random energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. So, I mean, with cards like this and maybe, what is it, Fearow, we've got Gyaradoses, Mawile doesn't really work with this, but there might be some kind of like energy denial thing, but it just doesn't seem to be particularly good enough, and that's probably a good thing, because if it was good enough, that would make people rage quit the game, right? Then we've got Cramorant. Flip a coin if heads during your opponent's next turn. Prevent all damage from and the effects of attacks done to this Pokemon. So, I mean, this is essentially Dugtrio, but needs 2 more energy, but it does 60. It's not going to see any play, I don't think. Alright, now we've got Pikachu. This attack does 10 damage for each of your for each of your bench electric Pokemon. So let's say on average you've got like 2 bench Pokemon when you start the game. This is 1 for 30, which already makes it better than the Pikachu with Gnaw, and you can get all the way up to doing 40 damage. Or excuse me, it's 10 times, not so it doesn't have a base of 10. So to make it the same as Gnaw, you need 2. I mean, Gnaw might be better most of the time, but this does have the potential to do 10 more, which could be relevant. We'll have to test it. We also have a new Raichu, which I was not expecting. 120 Giga Shock, 3 electric. This attack also does 20 damage to each of your opponent's bench Pokemon. This, I don't know. This and Zebstrika would be a way to get to the bench, but is it worth all this? I'm not sure. Again, it's gonna have to be something that we test out. Electabuzz, 2 electric. This attack does 40 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon. So this is like another Zebstrika effect. See, I think if you're going for something like that, this is just a way easier way to enable it. Joltik, 40 HP. Bug Bite, 1 for 30. Galvantula, 80 HP. During your opponent's next turn, the defending Pokemon can't retreat. So now Electric has a Arbok effect, which is really cool. Dedenne, flip a coin if heads. Your opponent's active Pokemon is now paralyzed. So we just have a cheaper Pincurchin. And, you know, the damage on Pincurchin doesn't really matter anyway. I think it's more about the stalling and, you know, being obnoxious that draws people to Pincurchin in the first place. Also, it has a retreat of 1, and I'm pretty sure Pincurchin is 2. So, big buff there. We have the Mew. It's the same effect as the immersive one. Unfortunately, it's not very good. Okay, now we're getting to Mew EX. So, everyone's talking about this card, and rightly so. Okay, so the thing that makes this card such a talking point is that the gnome hacking is all colorless. So you can basically splash this in any deck and have something to body block with for 130. You can retreat it for 1. And then if you're going up against like Charizard, anything with a powerful attack, you can just copy it and hit them right back. The big ones right now are Charizard and Mewtwo, so this can actually knock out a Mewtwo faster than Mewtwo can get Side Drive, which is hilarious. So if you're seeing a lot of Mewtwo, you want a Mewtwo counter, you want a Charizard counter, you can throw one of these in your deck. If it's Psychic, you should probably just throw this in your deck no matter what, because you can Psyshot for 20, which is, you know, this has a lot in common with Zapdos EX. It has 130, 1 retreat, 1 energy for 20, and then 3 energy for something big. You know, so really fantastic card. Definitely want to see this. What is this? Sigilyph? It's just bigger Meowth. Probably all right. What was this? Elgium? 60-20. 90 HP. This attack does 20 more damage for each of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So let's say they have 2, that's 1 for 50. Could be 1 for 70, could be a Beedrill. They have a full bench, I don't know, might see some play. Bebe. No, say that. Your opponent's active Pokemon is now asleep. I love it. Especially when you're trying to get to a stage 2 with it, right? 70, healing 10. Dealing 40. It's not a terrible stage 2 or stage 1, excuse me. And then the stage 2 is 2 energy for 80, heal 20 damage from each of your Pokemon. Probably not good enough, but I mean 2 energy for 80 really isn't bad at all. Excuse me. So it might see some play. Swirlix, basic stat line, Slurpuff, it's just the new Wigglytuff. Mankey, that's crappier than the current Mankey because you want to damage yourself so you can play the good Primeape and not this crappy one. 1 energy for 50. I'd rather just hurt myself and then do 2 for 100, right? Geodude. This Geodude's worse. I'd rather just do 20 damage for 1 energy. But we do have a 2 energy Graveler now, which is way better than the crappy 3 energy Graveler. So now you can go Geodude for 1 energy attack, Graveler for 2 energy attack, Golem for 3 energy plus Brock and attack, which is what we always needed. I've been saying that Golem and Brock would be so much better if we had a Graveler that could attack for 2 energy, and we finally have it, and that's sick. And I actually like the new Golem as well, 160 HP. During your opponent's next turn, this Pokemon takes minus 30 damage from attacks, 120, so it still knocks out Pikachu and makes it to where Mewtwo cannot revenge kill this anyway. And the benefit of the other Golem was that it can knock out Mewtwo, but this can just attack Mewtwo. Mewtwo can't win the trade back, and then you attack it, and then you take 30 less damage from the next attack. So, it could even survive another turn potentially. So, because it's essentially only taken 90 damage plus however much the new Pokemon they brought back in. And, you can heal it up with some potions or something like that. So, I think it's really good. All right, and now the second most talked about card after Mew, I think, is Aerodactyl. 140, 1 retreat, crazy. Ability that's on the bench. Doesn't have to be in the active spot. Your opponent can't play any Pokemon from their hand to evolve their active Pokemon. Totally insane. Slows down a lot of decks. Makes going first not as bad. 2 energy to deal 80 is crazy. This card is just nuts. This card is so good. The only thing that's unfortunate about it is you can't guarantee drawing the fossil early, and that's where we'll see a little bit of inconsistency. But hopefully you can pair it with other cards in your deck that are also good and mitigate some of that. Really crazy card. Then we have the Marshadow. If any of your Pokemon were knocked out by damage from an attack during your opponent's last turn, this attack does 60 more damage. So this one-shots Pikachu, unless they blue or something like that. But then you could just Geo if But anyway, naturally this one-shots Pikachu. This is a great secondary attacker to develop on the bench. Coming in and dealing 100, it's very like Prime Ape-ish, but without having needing as much setup, in that it doesn't need you to have Mankey early damaging itself. It just needs one of your Pokemon to go down. So I think this is going to be maybe a 1 of in a lot of decks, but it might even be a 2 of. Really good card. This is the draft pick. This is like if we had, this looks like a Pokemon that would be in a format of draft, and you'd still hate to see it because it's just a terrible card. Okay. Coughing. This Coughing is so sick. Put a random Coughing from your deck onto your bench. The reason why I love this Coughing is because whenever Koga is at its strongest is whenever you have a second Coughing on the bench. So you can Koga, replay the Wheezing after you promote that Coughing, and just keep on going with the poisoning and dealing the damage. What sucks is when you only have the one Wheezing and you Koga, and then you just replay the Coughing, and there's just something else on the active spot. So this makes Koga decks way more consistent and better, in my opinion. This Wheezing is also super interesting. They can't help themselves. They have to cook whenever they make Wheezing. So 2 Darkness Energy though. Smoke Screen 50 damage. Your opponent next turn, if the defending Pokemon tries to use an attack, your opponent flips a coin. If tails, that attack doesn't happen. So it's kind of like a sleep Wheezing. Kind of. Doesn't stop him from retreating without flipping. It just stops the attack, so it's like a pseudo sleep effect. But it also does the damage outright and doesn't rely on the poison ticking. So, very interesting card. I like it. Perleon, whatever. Basic stats. Totally not Leopard. 90 for 40. We've seen this before. Venipede, regular stats. Was this Whirlipede? Is like a roly-poly. Your opponent's active Pokemon is now poisoned. Don't think it's worth. Scolipede. If your opponent's active Pokemon is poisoned, this attack does 50 more damage. It's like a Muck that like enables itself. Well, I guess Muck also does with Grimer, but it does require 1 less energy and doesn't require triple dark, only 1 dark. I don't know. I don't know if that outweighs the stage 1 versus stage 2. And then we've got this. I don't know what this is, man. This looks like a Lego. If this Pokemon is in the active spot and is damaged by an opponent's, if it's Poliwrath, okay? If they deal damage to this, it deals 20 back, but it requires 2 different energy. Does 90 for 3. This card's terrible. This card's absolutely terrible. Pidgey. I don't even remember the original Pidgey. Was it 60-10? And now this is 50-20. You definitely stick with the other Pidgey. And then this Pidgeotto is total cheeks. 90 HP, 3 energy, 50. 1 for 30 is way better. Now we have Pidgeot EX, and not just Pidgeot. 3 colorless energy. This attack does 20 more damage for each of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So a maximum of 140, which does one-shot Aerodactyl. That's something. That's something. And it's also really thick. So, I don't know. It might not be a bad secondary attacker. I just don't know why you'd go through all the trouble. We saw this Tauros. If your opponent's active Pokemon is EX, it does 80 more damage. So this can one-shot Pikachu. 3 energy. You know. This, if you play this, you play Geos, so you can knock out Celebes and Zapdos and anything else at that 130 threshold. This card is nuts. Flip a coin until you get tails. This attack does 20 damage for each heads. So this is an Eevee that actually has a good attack and can just cheese a knockout. 50% chance to deal 20, and then obviously the chances get, lower as you go on for how many heads you're going to flip. But this is the Eevee I'll be playing with. I don't know. It's Chatot. Shuffle your hand into your deck. Draw a card for each card in your opponent's hand. This, I think, might be a one of in some decks where you're like just kind of like slamming all your cards down. I could maybe even see this in like Mewtwo Gardevoir, because we have that new item where you play it and then you get the psychic Pokemon. So you can either bench it or use it for evolving and just kind of like empty your hand onto the board. This is probably just going to be decent in a lot of stage 2 decks. It's just that the psychic also has a card that you can just like play without condition, so you don't have to like have a Pokemon damaged and then poison it, for example, and then maybe you can just like refill your hand. So kind of interesting. We got the old Amber reprint for the Aerodactyl. Pokeflute, put a basic Pokemon from your opponent's discard pile onto the bench. So if you have Sabrina, if you have Victory Bell, if you have Pidgeot, you can just keep bringing stuff back. Your opponent doesn't want to be brought back and win the game that way. So like, let's say you take out their starter active Pokemon and you get 2 Pokeflutes over the course of the game. You can kind of just like ignore what they're doing and just like keep bringing up stuff they don't want to be brought up and win the game. Really interesting card. This is going to make a whole like kind of archetype. Really interesting. Then we have the Mythic Slab. Look at the top card of your deck. If that card is a Psychic Pokemon, put it into your hand. If it is not a Psychic Pokemon, put it on the bottom of your deck. Again, this is just going to help all the Psychic decks with their consistency. Obviously, if you don't hit it, that's going to feel bad, but you're probably not going to activate it until you know the odds are in your favor, right? I don't know, no idea why this is a supporter. Put Mew EX in the active spot into your hand. I mean, I guess it's just like, you can poison my Mew, you can paralyze my Mew, and I can still move it out of the way. Is this ever going to be worth a deck spot? I don't think so. Then we have the blue that was spoiled. It's basically the anti-Geo. Pikachu might have to start running this if there's too many Marshadows going around, just to avoid getting one shot. And if that happens, or the Marshadow is going to start running Giovanni to make it the same again, it's going to be this weird like threshold breaker thing where like some decks really need blue, which means the other decks are going to want Geo, and it's just like it's going to get in this weird kind of territory. But I think most of the time this isn't going to see that much play. And then Leaf is probably the best supporter out of this set. During this turn, retreat cost of active Pokemon is 2 less, so you can consolidate some space. You're running 2 of these in 2 X speeds, but you get even more value, retreat value, and they're probably going to be ran together. It's probably going to be 1 Leaf and 2 X speeds if I had to guess. but definitely a very strong card. And then, oh my. Let me scroll back down. I was going to show you guys what I pulled. I did get the immersive Celebi, Rainbow Aerodactyl, which is beautiful, by the way. The full art Leaf, full art Pidgeot, a bunch of Marshadows and Dedennes, playset of Vaporeon, the Salandit, whatever, Superior, and Executor. So I just want to make sure I covered all these cards for you guys before I pack it up. But yeah, that's the new set. So I'm hoping that you know, this is definitely going to shake up things. You know, hope you get all the cards that you want to pull, and I really appreciate all the support. If you enjoyed the set review, please leave a like, leave a comment, tell me what you're most excited about, and I will see you guys soon.